We're back, baby. With Simon.
And Steven.
And Shane.
For episode 5 of The Bucket.
Sweet. And we're listening to
Nice.
We were completely in sync on that too, which is awesome. All in our minds. This internet
It's
is
because we know
fast.
the intro music so well.
I don't even remember.
I listened to it so many times now.
It's rocking.
How are you guys?
I'm doing good. I've been working. I've been taking time off. I flew again. And last night was Halloween, so got to hang out with the kiddos. My son had 5 other 14 or 15-year-old boys over for like 3 hours. And I was sharing videos of them playing Smash Brothers. I've got a little cheapo projector that I got for my son, and so he's got this little room, we call it the playroom, and we had the projector set up, and they were all playing Smash Bros. And I'm sure my neighbors hate me. They were so loud, but it's Halloween, so maybe they don't hate me too much, or they think I'm a good dad. I don't know. Depends on which way you look at it, But they were loud, and they were all sugared up, and brain rot lingo. Are you guys familiar with this brain rot stuff? No?
No.
It's like
Too old.
yeah, well, if you have kids, I guess that'll help, or depending on the age of the kids. So I wouldn't expect either of you to, I suppose. But so it's like all of these, it's like the new lingo. It's like, everything was rad and cool and dude and awesome
Wicked.
And gnarly and all this wicked, when we were young. Now it's skibbity on toilet and phantom tax and on get, and they love it when I do this. It's like, he's feeling me, bro, and I'm like, yeah, and everyone's like, oh, you did it, I'm like, so shout out to Carson and the boys. He's got a really cool little group of nerdy kids that they're not all nerdy, I guess, but they're all into like Dungeons and Dragons and the same YouTube channels, and
That sounds nerdy to me.
It does sound nerdy.
I don't even, so
Which nothing
most
wrong
of
with
them
that.
at least are. No. Half of them are in the same scouts with him, and so like all of the parents, we all have the same like sort of levels of concern. You can kind of see, even though some of us we just met recently, I can just kind of sense that we all have been like, when Carson, my son, his name is Carson, when he was younger, he didn't have a lot of friends. And my ex and I's mom, we thought differently about this. I'm like, I'd rather him have good friends that, he cares about than force him to be with just for having friends' sake. You know what I mean? So I was not really ever concerned. I'm like, when he finds his people, his tribe or whatever, he'll find them and it will work out. And that's what I think he's done. And I think that everybody else in the group is along the same lines. Like their parents are like so happy and grateful and thankful to have this little group of good kids. They have all got A's, straight A's. Like they're all just, you know what I mean? And they try and they push each other a little bit. And, it's not Ohio, which is brain rot.
I don't get that reference.
Ohio is like anything bad, I guess. And I think you're not supposed to say what things are. You just, if you get it, you get it. If you don't,
Wait, what's wrong with that? Ohio? Why is it bad?
Oh boy, I'm not saying anything here. It's not. It has nothing to do with the state. I think it has everything to do with the state, though. So I don't know.
Maybe I'll never know. Maybe I shouldn't ever know.
It's probably okay. I think you'd be okay. Unless you hear, like, you're walking through an airport someday and some teenagers are like, nice shirt.
Shouting
And someone's like,
skibbity.
Ohio, skibbity toilet. If someone says skibbity, just say toilet, and they will look at you like he knows,
He knows everything.
I don't even know what it is, but I know, apparently.
Especially coming from a Brit guy, that would be awesome.
I tell you, I'm gonna go to London probably in a few weeks. If I hear any British kids say these random words, I might just have to go and slap them. No, stop.
I support you in this decision. I think that's
do
definitely
that
the right way to handle it.
Like random people, strangers can just go up and smack other people's children. It's fine.
I've been thinking about moving, actually, for that very reason.
That's just a cultural norm. Just stranger slapping.
Just hitting kids. I mean, why not?
Totally.
Not serious.
This is why you guys are so well behaved over the pond. You constantly know you're at risk of getting a hand across the face.
I mean, it really did used to be that way. It's not anymore. But, well, hence the downfall. But maybe that's still to come. Anyway, that's good. I mean, that's good for Carson and like his mates, and it's really important to have like that group of people that you're tight knit to at that age, and because some of those relationships can last for a really, really long time.
Yeah,
I think too, like his best friend. They've been best friends now for 3 or 4 years, and I can start to see they're now in high school, first year in high school. They're starting to, I can see, they probably don't even notice it at all, but there's little things where they're starting to drift. And it's like giving me like, I remember some people when I was that age that I thought I'd be friends with forever that I haven't talked to since then. And I think for the time that it is, number one, it's great. And I think that it doesn't matter what really happens moving forward, but also his parents and I are great friends too. We get along excellently as well. And not just because the kids, which I think like, usually is what happens or often happens. You just like hang out for that, but like we hang out and then we like just find excuses for the kids to hang out so that we can hang out and stuff like that. So,
that's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good feeling for sure.
Nice.
Knowing your kids are in good hands, and I can send him to any of the friends' house and they'll all come here and no one even like, it's just like no question. They know that I'm always, because I'm a leader in the Boy Scouts too. I'm very like safety first with everything. As long as safety's in place, then have a blast, like I don't care, just clean up your mess when you're done, I guess. As much as you can.
Clean up the mess.
And they did. I was pretty impressed, actually. So, yeah.
That's good. Hey, you've got them well trained. Yes, sir.
I don't know about that. Send them over to England for a couple of weeks this summer, maybe.
Few, random slaps.
Yeah.
What about work? What's been going on this week? Have you started with that project that you kicked off last week?
I have.
You signed the deal, right? What's
signed the
there?
deal. We didn't sign anything. We're just dudes.
It's legit.
Just hanging out. I mean, it's pretty cool. So I haven't talked to him about mentioning him here. So for this round, we'll keep it anonymous. But no, like I'm kind of like dipping my toe in because I've learned this about myself, that I don't do so well with like full-time employment. I feel like I'm caged. I feel like, I like contracts. I will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week. And often enough times what would end up happening is I'll get a 9 to 5 sort of full-time contract, and then like my ADD or something, whatever it is, the impulse to like go find more work, that's always there. I'll go and find more work, and now I'm doing way too much and I have to prioritize, and then I don't prioritize my regular, and I've done that enough times to be able to admit it to myself and the rest of the world, like it's not what I want. It's not where I feel good. So it's nice that number one, I'm like just kind of dipping my toe into this little work pool with this relationship with this gentleman, and he's kind enough to first of all, to give me just, I only asked initially for like, give me 20 hours. Let's just see how I do with that and see how I work with it and see how we work with each other. Also, like, I went flying on Wednesday. I took my girlfriend up. We went flying, and normally with a regular sort of job, I took like the whole day off. I had no problem telling him, I'm going flying with my girl. I'm not working this day. And he's like, cool. He's like, send pics, like it was totally a normal, natural. It's just, we're just guys. I want to do a good job for him. He needs to do a good job for his clients. I want to make him look like a superstar so that I look like a superstar, kind of thing. And so I was talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, I think I want, I'm at 25-ish hours. I think I want to see if he'll give me 30 next week and maybe 35 the next week. And so before I even talked to him about that, he's like, hey, I've got you down for like 24 hours and that's kind of your sweet spot, but I could do another 24 if you're interested. So I'm like, bet. That's brain rot lingo, bet. I'm
learning. Every day's a school day. Damn.
No cap, bro. No cap. Actually, I have a cap. Laravel News cap. Actually, I'm a little bit rambling here. It's going good. I wanted to talk about Laravel News, but yeah. So we'll leave it there for now.
Let's let Stephen tell us about his week. What's been going on with you, Stephen?
I'm okay. So Simon gave me his illness. So you can probably tell the voice isn't quite at 100%.
Through the interwebs.
Yeah. But it was busy. Since last episode, we did a Halloween party at our rock climbing gym on Saturday, which was a lot of fun. On Sunday, we did a big hike with close friends of ours, which is always interesting whenever you have, a 6-year-old, 2 3-year-olds, and an 8-month-old. Very, very slow hiking progress. And then this week has been a good work week. A lot of interesting discussions for the Backer Club with my business partner and I, trying to figure some things out. And then finally got to dabble a little bit with Lara Devs, which is great. And continuing to try to chip away at some stuff I'm doing for John over at Thunk Dev on paper cuts. And I think that's it. I think that's it. So a good week. Just wish I wasn't ill, but like, what are you going to do about that? So.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke yesterday or the day before. I can't remember. And
something
you didn't
like
sound ill then, but you definitely sound a little bit.
You look horrible.
Thank you.
Shocking.
Let me turn all the lights off so it's just a black screen.
We agreed not to mention his appearance. Gosh.
Yeah. It's mainly at night. It's this sinus thing, and so while I'm sleeping, my throat hurts worse and worse and worse, and then you wake up in the morning and like by the end of the day, my throat has and like vocal cords have sort of recovered, and then you get back to sleep and it's just rinse and repeat. So
yeah. It turns out you're just like bawling in your sleep, constantly. No, it's horrible. I hate being ill, even when it's like a cold, it's kind of minor. It's just like you feel just rubbish.
I am a baby when I'm sick. I'm horrible. I will stay in bed for days.
Living up to the trope. Men are horrible when they're sick.
I'm the worst.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get better, Stephen.
Yeah, luckily it hasn't been like, I don't feel super bad. It's just the sinuses and my throat. So if I didn't have these darn podcasts, I'd be doing great. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, these totally elective things that you're doing.
I knew it'd come back and be my fault.
My sole job is to talk.
Yeah. Oops.
Oh man.
Yeah, my wife's ill again this week, so we both had this like cold thing overlapping, and then I feel like I've shaken it. It's not there, but it's kind of come back for her. So now I'm like, I'm gonna get it again. It's just gonna spin around. So, I'll probably be in the same boat again next week. But even though it's warm still here, the change in the weather just brings all of these things out.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
And here I am, British guy talking about the weather. Oh yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
We've got autumn colors here in North Carolina, so Shane and I are enjoying
Beautiful.
some beautiful color right now. Maybe
Did
I'll
you? Sorry.
give a quick photo for us to edit in for the YouTube version of this, just to let people see from the hike. But yeah, really pretty right
Nice.
now.
Beautiful.
So,
Did you
Can I-
guys
oh,
change
go ahead.
clocks as well, like this week?
mm,
Sunday.
yeah. I think it's Sunday.
Oh, you haven't changed yet.
Not yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
Oh,
it's coming up.
so
You guys
yeah,
did.
we have the. Yeah, we already did. And that actually threw a couple of meetings out for me this week with US clients because they were like, "Oh, it's our usual time," and for me, it's like changed to an hour before or whatever. And it's like, screwed up my calendar.
Mm. So wait, are you now 6 hours ahead of us instead of 5, or are you 4?
No,
Which way
I
did it
think
go?
I think it's contracted, so it's 4.
Is it 2 p.m. there now?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
10 a.m. here. So that it went
Gotcha.
the other
So
way.
just for this like week and a half, maybe 2
Right.
weeks.
So the next
Oh,
episode
maybe
we'll
not
be
even.
back to
Yeah.
the normal 5-hour difference. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's fall back, spring ahead, right? That's how I always
Mhm.
remember. Fall,
Mhm.
go back 1 hour. Spring, you go ahead 1 hour, right? But so I was working with this company in Australia, and they like they do it all different days of the year. They change the clocks, but in like the summer they go back 2 hours or something, and then like it's like only certain provinces in.
Yeah.
Yes, seriously.
What?
Only certain provinces like they observe 2 hour difference and then 1 hour back in the summer. And I don't, or in this whatever it is. I don't know. I don't. I'm already confused. I don't want to talk about it. It hurts. I'm done. Look it up if you really care. Just ignore what I just said.
Yeah,
It's
I
painful.
remember a few years ago, somebody posted something about like getting rid of it and just having one time zone. Like everybody it's midnight everywhere, and it's just like, nah, that doesn't work either. It's just like one of those fundamental problems that you just have to deal with. But we've dealt with it in a really like globally in a political way, which is just ridiculous. Like it should just be you're on this. Which one is it? Latitude? Longitude? Damn. Which
One of
one is
them.
it? One of those. You're on this one.
Longitude
this
is
time.
up and down. Latitude is
Yeah.
like east to west.
I knew that really.
So I heard this theory, and at first I was like, that's a good argument. And then someone like this was on a TikTok video just like last week or something, and one of the comments were like, all right, so here's the premise. It's 10 a.m. It is 10 a.m. everywhere in the world right now. We're just calling it. It's the label that you call it, right? And it's like now we can just say we're all going to meet up at 2 p.m. today, and everyone knows it's 2 p.m. The problem is this, though. Like, if I want to know like what the sun looks like, what position in the sky the sun is at 2 p.m. for you versus 2 p.m. for me or somebody in China. You still have to translate what that means in your head, right? You still have to figure. So I think it actually does make more sense. Like, let's move the times with the sun, right? That way I know if it's 10 a.m. or it's 7 a.m., the sun just came up. No matter where you are in the world, at 7 a.m., the sun is just coming up,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
It's not about using the sun as the point of reference for time anymore. It's about knowing whether somebody's likely to be awake in the car,
right.
like doing
Yeah.
the school run or like
Yep.
having their lunch. So yeah, it turns out that those two things are kind of equivalent and they work well.
Yeah.
So we should,
Unless we
shouldn't
all just
mess with it.
change to like if it's 7 a.m., it doesn't matter where the sun is. That's the time you get up, right?
Oh, circadian rhythms be damned. We're just
Who cares? We're humans, man. AI.
no more
Forget,
need
like-
for like night nurses to get their differential. It's just
Oh,
everybody
God,
gets
yeah.
screwed at some point.
Yep.
I do think there's a bigger argument that we could probably drop the whole daylight savings concept
Oh.
at this point.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, that was originally created to help with, I believe, like the office environment way early 1900s or something like that. I want to say it was shortly after. Do you know?
I think it was farmers actually back in like the 1600s
That's
or
what I had
1700s.
in mind as well. I wasn't going to say
But
anything.
I didn't think farmers cared because it was they're just going by the sun. I mean, maybe I will have to look this up. We'll get a little correction after the show. But yeah, I thought that it had to do with
we love an oopsie,
the
remember?
office environment. Yeah, right. A fact oopsie. I'm giving it now. And with how much power had to be consumed with early lights, like incandescent lights.
That sounds like.
And so they tried to do a daylight saving shift so that most people working would be going back into the office in the morning with it being bright out, so that they didn't have to burn more energy at that time. But now that's like not as significant of a concern. And so do you still really need that? You want to do a live? Can we do a live
I'm doing it now.
This? Oh,
He's are? Right.
Okay. Wait, who's right? Is it the farmers or is it the office environment?
Daylight so this is the AI overview on Google. Daylight savings time. Nope, but I do anyway. Was originally created to conserve energy and make use of natural daylight. But its true purpose is debated. And then it says Benjamin Franklin is often credited with the first suggesting the idea of DST, daylight savings time, in the 18th century. Not a lot of office electricity consumption then, I don't think.
No. When was it like officially put into effect, at least in the US? Does it say?
Daylight savings time was originally implemented during World War I to help conserve fuel and power.
Okay.
But the daylight savings procedures most people are now familiar with were established in 1966. I was way off. I'm like 1600s, dude. Farmers.
A quick look up says March 15th, 1918, the Standard Time Act is passed by Congress, creating daylight savings time in the United States.
Gotta ask OpenAI.
So we don't know about the rest of the world, but there you go. So turn of the century.
We don't know. We don't care.
Making light is still a very actually difficult thing to do. So they, I think, tried to use more normal awake hours when the sun is up to burn or to use. I don't want to say burn, to use less energy.
Yep, I like it. I like it in the fall. I hate it in the spring. I get an extra hour of sleep on Sunday or Monday, right? And then then in the spring, it's like I have to give it back, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it used to just be like, oh yeah, the extra hour or the lost hour. But I've really found this year, I feel a little bit brighter in the morning. So I think it's something to do with being here, which is quite close to the equator, which is quite unusual for me because I grew up in the UK.
Right, totally different.
It really is, right? So in the mornings in the UK in summer, the sun, if it's going to be a sunny day, the UK isn't always sunny. If it's going to be a sunny day, it'll be bright from maybe even pre 6 a.m. on some days.
Right.
And just that light, even if you've got thick curtains and stuff, the light's coming in through the window, and it's you're waking up, you're kind of feeling ready for the day. You're just getting into the motion of doing stuff. And then when you get into winter, it's that gets later. So the day is shorter, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't get light so early, but it's still quite early. So it'll still be 8 a.m. That's quite early for me. But
the vampire is showing his sleeping habits.
Here at 8 a.m. in summertime, it's still kind of dark in summertime.
Oh,
and that
interesting.
Is super, super strange. So I'm waking up, it's 8, it's dark, and I'm it's dark. I should just go back to sleep. Which is really dangerous. And then in it's obviously a lot lighter in the evenings. It doesn't get dark really until 10, 11. But then now that the clocks have kind of gone back, now it's lighter earlier.
Right.
And so now it's lighter at 7 a.m. and I'm feeling I'm waking up in the actual morning. And I'm ready to get on with stuff. And which is why I was successful in going to the gym last week.
Woohoo!
So yeah, I'm just like, it's a little bit weird, but it's kind of better here.
Here's a controversial question that I'm going to ask.
Let's do it.
Steven first.
Oh, no.
And I think we're all on the same page here, but I want to verify. Is the Earth round? Is it a sphere?
Is it perfectly spherical? No.
No. You know what I'm saying? Is it
Are we
flat
going
Earth?
flat Earth?
Yes.
Conspiracy here?
Yes. I just want to know where you stand.
Oh my God.
That's all. I promise.
Oh, man. When Matt listens to this podcast episode, he is going to laugh at this point for reasons I will get into. No, the Earth is not flat.
Okay.
What,
all right. That's it.
Are we serious? Like,
and I'm not going to say mine yet. I'll do mine last.
But it is
Simon.
not perfectly spherical either.
I know that. Of course. Nothing is, really.
I'm sorry. There is only one answer to this question. It is a sphere of sorts.
It's not flat. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys want to hear the one theoretical argument I have heard that is the only one that does make sense to me about a flat Earth?
Oh gosh, no.
Sure.
I'm gonna totally
Don't change
butcher
my
this.
mind now.
So all of the
we all convert live on.
No. Because this is like, again, this is an argument that is exclusively theoretical. Like it has no actual bearing on reality. It's just a kind of crazy statement that does make you think, oh, okay, but like the Earth is still round. Okay, so here's the argument. And I'm going to totally, any physics listeners, I'm really sorry, but let me word vomit this out. Basically, the argument is that Earth, because it is so massive, right, has gravity, it's warping space-time. And so the Earth, like hypothetically, if it had zero mass, would be flat. However, because it's so massive and warping space-time around the core, what we are experiencing it as it being round is simply because it is warping space-time into that shape.
So it still
Did
makes
any of
it
that
a
just
sphere.
make sense?
Yeah.
But like that's what I'm saying. In reality, because like
but wait, it's a
reality has
catch-22.
mass, it is still round. It's just like
here's this piece of paper. From this perspective, it's flat.
Yeah.
But when I do this, it's round. It's like,
yeah. But anyways, so that it's basically like, the result of, mass warping space-time that is what is making it round. But it's just like, that's still a stupid argument because like, yes, it is massive. So like, in other words, it has mass, it is warping space-time, it's making gravity, it's becoming a ball. Anyways.
But I think it's all right. So it's a catch-22 though, that argument or that, whatever you want to call that theory, because if I maybe I'm wrong on this too, who knows? But it's like the shape is what gives it the gravity, right? Because it's this giant thing. If it was a giant thing floating in space, but it was completely flat, it's not going to then just start crumbling in on itself and turning into this round shape. It's because it's round that it's got this gravity, right? And so it's
I think we should move on from this.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you.
I'm gonna write an app about this.
If you've got any thoughts about the roundness of the Earth, its gravity, like if you've solved the theory of gravity, please write in.
Yeah.
What's the email address? Just write a comment on the YouTube videos.
On this episode, 3 devs talk about a bunch of shit they have no idea what they're talking about.
It's skibidyohio@thebucket.com.
Oh man!
Right,
there
we go.
Yes, perfect. Simon, can we hear about your week or?
Yeah, kind of. We sort of touched on it. Yeah. Oh well, one thing that I think is worth mentioning. So actually, for a few weeks now, I've been doing some stuff on native PHP, which has been kind of a significant piece of development. I could go into loads of detail about it, so I'm not going to. But suffice to say, it has been requested quite a lot, especially recently, as more and more folks are kind of trying out native PHP and building apps with it, to be able to spin up a child process. So a way to like run a background activity that's persistent, and you can kind of interact with, but doesn't block the main application.
Okay.
Does that
So
make
like
any
UI,
sense?
it doesn't block UI updates and stuff?
Yeah, well, more than that even. Like if you think about in the context of like a queue or
Yeah, that's what I
task
was
scheduling, we were talking about
just
queues, right?
asking. Right.
So when you use the queue in Laravel, if you're not using the sync queue, it's going to offload the work to another process or worker. So that's another process that's picking up the job, and then it's doing the work, and then it's finishing and like updating the database, whatever.
Right.
Um, what this kind of effectively enables you to do is set up arbitrary workers for anything. So instead of it just being like the Laravel queue, which is only going to run your PHP code, this can spin up any other process and just manage it really well. So like you could spin up processes using PHP. That's absolutely doable. But the problem is, as soon as you make another request, it loses that connection to that process. You can't interact with it without kind of a lot of effort to like find its PID, find the standard in, standard out file descriptors, and like reconnect back to it. So it's just like a mess if you're just trying to use something from PHP directly. Whereas here, you get like persistent access to it over multiple requests. And the way that we've built it, so I worked on this with Willem, who I was talking about a few weeks ago. He did some stuff on native PHP before, which kind of enabled a lot of this, which I think is actually really, really cool. And so he came in and he sort of helped out with this project as well. And it's fully like reactive. So your application can react to stuff that's happening in this thing in real time. And when you couple that with like Livewire, you just have this like you don't need WebSockets at all. We've got rid of WebSockets, and
Wow.
you don't need like complex JavaScript libraries like listening for stuff. You just have Livewire, so like listening for an event name, and the event name is just like a class name. And it's super, super easy to use. It's super slick. And then all of a sudden your UI is updating in real time to something that's happening. It could be like a Go process. It might be an app that was built in Rust. It could be just like another executable that already exists on the system,
Can I give like a hypothetical example of this, and you tell me if that's correct?
Yeah.
So this would be like, I have a native PHP app, and one of the pieces of functionality is uploading a video. So I could spin up a background process to run FFmpeg, which is going to take a while, but not hold up the main thread. And you could get UI updates as that processing is chunking through. Does any of this sound like it would?
100%. Like you could possibly do that with a queue worker, and that might be the thing that you reach for if you had like a way to interact with this thing from your Laravel app, like Laravel code, PHP code. But if the thing that you want to interact with isn't written in PHP, now you can do it here. Like you might ship an entire binary that does some work that's written in some other language, and it's like completely self-contained. And you want your app to just be able to offload a chunk of work to that thing and just let it go and report back, and then know that it's going to safely shut down when your app quits, and it's going to start back up again when your app starts, or whenever you trigger the start of this process. And all of that, you just want like complete control over this thing. And it doesn't matter whether it's a PHP thing or not, So yeah, entirely. That's a really good example actually, because queue workers can fail in all sorts of weird ways and stuff, and then you don't know whether it's available anymore. You don't, I've got to add another job and you've got to do all these queries and like assess the state of the system. With this, you literally just go, is the process running? No. Okay, start it. Starts. And then you start doing whatever you want to do with it. It's really, really powerful. I think the thing that's kind of the use case that I'm really excited about for it is kind of allowing this external process to interact with like server-based systems on your behalf, or creating like network systems. So you've got this thing that can act as like a server and a client. Let's say you've built a process, a command or a binary that can act as both a server and a client for network requests. It can go and communicate with something, bring back information, but other stuff could come in and communicate with it. And then your app can respond to the stuff that's happening like elsewhere, which is not trivial in a native desktop application environment. But this makes it like, it will make it super trivial. It's going to be amazing.
Can you go into like the actual technical, how does this happen? Like, what is the interface between these processes?
Yeah, I'll try. I don't really fully understand it myself. This is the magic of abstraction.
So do we need a guest on our, is like Willem kind of doing more of the... Go ahead.
Well, somebody who's got an understanding of the inner workings of Electron would be really useful. So my understanding of it at a high level is that there is a way to, for the processes that Electron spins up to communicate with each other through a channel called IPC. So interprocess communication. It's a very like standard way that applications can communicate with each other if they expose the right kind of interfaces. And because the processes that Electron is spinning up are all kind of owned by the main Electron process, they can all be managed by it. And because that main Electron process, it just lives forever and it's like constantly spinning, this is like your supervisor or queue manager, like it's the thing that just is constantly available, waiting for requests, waiting for input, and then it's going to do something. And so when we tell it spin up another process, it spins up that process in like a forked way. So it knows about it, it remains connected to it at all times. And then we're basically just tunneling the messages between the two things using Electron as a kind of proxy. Okay. So Electron is really managing it for us. We're just instructing Electron to do a bunch of the work, and they've got this like super secure, isolated way to run processes like this so that it works cross-platform, and there's like a consistent API and whatever, and it just works, and it's really cool. And I'm actually struggling to like think of really good examples of something powerful enough to show it off, but I think people who know how they would use it kind of get that it's a valuable piece of the puzzle that's been missing for a while, and now it's there. I released it this morning, so super excited about that.
Not to bust any bubbles, but like, does this mean this is Electron only, or will Tauri did they offer any sort of a interface for this?
It doesn't have the same kind of interface in Tauri yet, that I'm aware of anyway. So but the plan is that when that comes through, it will support it as well in some form. Okay, cool. Like the API will stay the same for people using native PHP. So you won't think about like, am I Tauri or Electron? I just use the child process API and it gets done for me.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it should be cool. It should be. So that's kind of the thing that's been really occupying my mind, I would say, for the last couple of weeks. But anyway,
the dumbest question is the one not asked. So I'm like, I get some of this stuff. I think I understand the basics of what you're saying here. But is this something that could exist without native PHP?
Yeah,
or is it because, I guess because you're using the Electron stuff now?
The
I mean, a Laravel
there
app, you're
are
sitting on a server, right? To be able to do this kind of same functionality, would there be
so
benefit?
you can do it with PCNTL, this kind of like forking, process forking, in a way that kind of maintains the management and the ability to send input and receive output. Um,
But not on Windows.
that doesn't work on Windows.
Yeah.
There's still issues with it. It's like you're talking about wanting to spin up a process kind of in an async. If you think of it as like an async thing, right? So I'm saying start this process, and now my script that started the process just wants to like train, just keep rolling down that track. Forget that I've asked to start it. I just want to continue. I don't care about it really anymore. Yeah, it's done. And by default, PHP doesn't really work that way. So getting it to do stuff like that is
Yeah.
a little bit trickier. So, I mean, I've not had to do too much of that, so I could be completely wrong. But it's just like every attempt that I've had that tries to do something similar to this, it's like you're better off just in a separate command. I just start this process, which is why we do it all in like the deployment script. You have your worker has to be restarted and all of that kind of thing. It's not being managed by the PHP process that's running under the web server, the SAPI. This gets really complicated. I'm sorry, but
I get
it's
it. PHP wants to be synchronous, right? Everything's like in
exactly.
a process, in a single thread sort of way, right? And so you need some sort of wrapper around this that you can say, hey, go do something and let me know when you're done, or I'm just listening for whenever you do something. So,
Yeah.
and that typically can be done within a queue or like Redis, probably something, it's a queue either way. But now
Yeah.
you've done it in a more native way using the Electron, that's all Node, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Node, so Node and JavaScript is very good at asynchronous stuff. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. I think, as I said, it's been missing from native PHP. So whilst technically it might be possible in other environments to do some of this stuff in a similar fashion, that is not directly portable to the native environment that we've set up until now. So it's just been missing and it's been introduced, which is a good step forward in my mind.
Probably another silly question, but like, is this sort of a thing something that you could use to run a service like Mealy Search in the background of your native PHP app? Like something, I'm trying to think of like, you want to put a native PHP app on somebody's computer, but also tap into another piece of software that like they wouldn't have installed by default or anything. So like, how could you package it together? And if it was simply running a binary,
so
could you do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are two considerations there. One is, can you package that other thing up into like something? It doesn't necessarily need to be a single file, but into a significantly what's the right word? Just like nicely packaged up little bundle that it's not going to require like I need to install this driver over here and edit the registry or edit some plist over there. It's going to like modify the user system in some significant ways outside of your little sandbox. That is the word. Thank you. So that's one concern, and then the other one is licensing, right? Because you're distributing a piece of software which if you haven't written it, you don't own it. Maybe the license prohibits you from distributing it with some software that may be licensed differently or whatever. So yeah, kind of just use a bit of caution there. Check the licenses and what you're allowed to do with this stuff, because some people will prohibit that. But if it's free to do so, and you can bundle the thing up into, ideally it is just a single binary, so a single file, and then you can just like call that from your Laravel application using the child process API. Then yeah, it can be anything. So Melee search, whatever.
Cool. Nice.
So Electron has all of these like APIs, right? There's all these things that you can do within Electron.
Yeah.
I guess, well, my first question is like, you don't just get all of those in native PHP just out of the box because that's what you're using. You and anybody else that's contributed to native P has had to build out the Laravel sort of implementation for each one of the, like an adapter basically for everything. Yeah. So what percentage then would you say you guys have, and how, like, I mean, do you have to worry about deprecations with stuff that they're doing much or, stuff like that?
Because it's only been like a year or just over a year that the project's been going, really. We haven't bumped into too many of these issues. I think one of the fundamental pieces is you just have to stay on top of what's happening with Electron, which I'm starting to get more into now, but I've not been up to now because I've never really used Electron, and it's very good, it's very powerful, but it changes a lot, and they've got multiple active versions under development, that they're supporting and backporting security fixes and all sorts of things too. And then it's like, it's not running the very latest version of Chromium or whatever under the hood. And there's a whole bunch of gotchas, some new version of Chromium that they start using. So not new of Chromium, but like a newer one from Electron's point of view. Could introduce some bug which they've not spotted, or they've just gone, well, we can't do anything about this right now, and then that leaks down into everybody's apps in the next release that we do, because we've decided to bump the version number of Electron. And yeah, there's a lot of like risk factors that need to be taken into consideration through all of that. It's like the next level of thinking about your dependencies from a risk perspective, because now I'm not thinking just for me, I'm thinking for like, what about all the people who are using a native PHP for this? So yeah, it's taken on a whole new level of thinking for me around that stuff.
Do we have, or have you thought of? I'm sure you've thought of this, like a like built with native PHP website where people can post the projects they've done.
Yeah, there's at the moment there's not really a website, but we've got like an awesome native PHP GitHub repository.
Nice.
So people can share their stuff on there, create a PR to list that on the docs of that site. And then eventually we'll flesh that out into something a bit more fancy, but that does the job for now. Also, get onto the Discord and start telling people what you're working on. There's quite a few cool projects have been posted on there.
Very
so
cool.
Yeah, that's that.
Nice.
Let's skip over to some other stuff. We've got I've got a comment that we had on YouTube, one of our YouTube videos already. That there's kind of a question actually that came through on that. Maybe we can think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
It's also kind of related to what we've just been talking about, I guess. It's which technologies, packages, etc. would you recommend I use if I want to set up a successful SaaS, SaaS, software as a service? Is SaaS overrated or underrated? Can someone really make good money by building a SaaS? Stephen, you go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I think that's a pretty massively loaded question, right? That's almost basically like, are businesses overrated?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Can Shane go right now? Because I have a leaf blower going outside.
Only because you have such a good excuse to get out of it. Sure. Yeah, I agree. That's like, so I think that's one way of like, is a SaaS overrated? Software as a service. To if you are looking to make money online and you know how to code, that is probably the number one way, I think, to make money. So yes, I think that they are probably underrated, only because that I can't believe that question was asked. So if that like you shouldn't even have to ask that, I don't think. So as far as technology goes, I mean, to each their own. It's whatever you're probably most comfortable and proficient with. If you don't know anything, if you don't know where to start, we're going to keep it in the context of Laravel application, because that's what we all do. My go-to, I mean, it depends on what the software is that you're building for like how you want to manage that stuff. Cashier or Spark is probably like the best way to handle any of the recurring billing stuff. And I think outside of that, it really depends on what it is you're building. I would say, like, I would be hard pressed to find a good excuse not to use Filament these days. I don't see myself any time I'm Laravel new, whatever the app is. I'm building a Filament app. So I actually created a Filament installer. So instead of doing Laravel new, you can say Filament new, which really just piggybacks the whole Filament installer, at least as of like 6 months ago.
It doesn't work anymore.
Probably not. And then it does a composer require of Filament, and then it sets up it prompts you to set up the user and make sure that the database is there, which are some questions that it asks you in the Laravel installer, which you have to have a database if you're going to use Filament. So we don't even ask you that question in that. So no, as far as SaaS, if you want to build a successful SaaS app, I would strongly recommend asking AI for suggestions on how to market, because a wise man, my uncle, once said, if you had the best product on earth but nobody knew about it, you're not going to make a penny. So marketing is essential as well.
Yeah.
Has your leaf blower stopped?
I think so. Come on, lawn guy. Aren't you supposed to know that I'm on air right now?
So Ohio, Steven.
He always comes on Thursday, so this is never a problem. I'm not sure. Bad timing. Yeah, so I think it's a really big question, right? Because SaaS is just a type of business, right? So if you're going to be successful at business, SaaS is just one particular category of them that are out there for developers and tech companies. For somebody asking this type of question, in other words, it would make me think they're like trying to get into it. I'll just pull out a few like suggestions. One is try to find pretty much the most niche thing that you can that is currently underserviced, because that's, I guess, fairly obvious. Like, a lot of the prominent ways to provide a service, especially as a SaaS, that already exist, it'll be really, really difficult to compete with. And being very niche, very specific in what you're doing helps you just drive home what your core value proposition is going to be, and lets you try to determine if you're going to have product market fit earlier before you burn a lot of time or money. And yeah, so there's like just kind of one. Specific packages, I do like Shane bringing up payment stuff, because that's obviously a part of pretty much any successful SaaS business. And so tapping into some of those packages to help you do that easily is really, really good. I am almost, the more I develop larger applications, the more I become afraid of packages. So I have sort of adopted the philosophy that unless a package is absolutely needed and you're ready to maintain it yourself, try not to compose or install it. But at the same time, I mean, there are certain things out there that like you're not going to want to reinvent that wheel, and they're really, really well maintained products, packages that you'd absolutely want to bring in. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head, like good ones.
Spatsy roles and permissions. I use in almost every app.
Yeah, and I think like a big one, it is a paid thing, but Spatsy has Mail Coach, which I have found to be a fantastic way to do newsletters, transactional emails, drip campaigns, etc., for a lot less money and with a lot more control than what your typical like email service
ESP
provider is going to give you. So that's a big one. And that taps into what Shane was saying, which is that to be totally honest, building a SaaS is not necessarily the hard part, especially for the developers that are trying to do it. It's distributing it and selling it that's the really, really hard part. And emails can play a really big role into that. So I don't think I have a whole lot more to say other than, that question begs figure out the business plan first. A SaaS is just kind of a label of a particular way of doing that with online businesses.
That was great, guys. I think I'm gonna like underscore some of that stuff with my thoughts on it. I think technology actually doesn't matter at all. So what do I mean by that? Basically, packages or not, whichever language, framework, whatever, it has very little consequence as to whether this is going to be a successful business. So as you said, Stephen, like you've got to figure out what the business model actually is. You know, as we're now in this kind of later stage of SaaS, it's been really effectively 20, 25 years of it. You've got to come up with a niche, but that's got to overlap in the giant Venn diagram of also being like it's got a decent sized addressable market so that your niche of it is still like business worthy and that you can actually reach them. And then to Shane's point, you've got to be able to reach them. You've got to be able to market this thing to those people and sell it to them and convince them to part with their cash for it at the end of the day. Otherwise, you don't have a business. And I think to that point, you kind of want to prove that you've got a business without building anything. Like if you can get into a position where you've kind of proven the idea of the business with like a spreadsheet or hand rolling Word documents or PowerPoint presentations, you know, it's like that's the way to go first, prototype and preview the thing, and then when you need to start scaling it and now you've got the skills to build this thing and you've got the tools available to you, just pick the ones that make the most sense to you, that allow you to move quickly and get that bit done, as Stephen said, like get it out of the way so you can focus on actually like making it into a business.
Got to work on a new, I don't know if it's a SaaS, I guess it is. Well, it's a subscription model nonetheless. So you guys know Justin Jackson, I'm assuming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is the fine host of this gracious podcast.
That's right. Yeah, Transistor, right?
Yeah.
I met him in 2019 at Laracon. He was the MC at Laracon in New York. We had a mutual acquaintance, Jason Beggs, actually at the PHP Upstate where Stephen and I met. He's like, hey, does anybody have just a couple hours a week, I guess, to go over some junior dev's code? And so I got hooked up with Justin, and Justin just released, I think it was on Wednesday, a couple days ago from now, an app called SwagFan. And he had me look over the code. I worked with Ferdinand, who was the developer behind it, and just kind of give my 2 cents as a more senior developer as to like security, make sure it's not, like people can't just steal other people's stuff. I think that was the biggest concern. And then
cool.
So SwagFan is a way it's more suited for people that, if you have a Printful account, the way it currently is set up, though he's looking to work with other providers in the future. If you have print on demand merchandise, and you just want to send somebody a shirt or a hat or a something, but you don't want to collect all their information and what color did you want, what size did you want, and where's it going, and all this stuff. You can just create a link and send it to them, and you can control how many times that link is used and if it expires on a certain date, stuff like that. So a little bit of control over that, which is interesting. And then you just send out this link or a QR code. You can use a QR code at like an event on a big banner or something, and people can just scan it and say, I want this shirt or this hat or a multiple, number. You can control all that. Like how many things can they get?
That's cool.
And they can just, and then because Printful does everything on demand, they just drop ship it for you, and you don't have to worry about anything. You still, obviously you're paying Printful for all of the merchandise, and you're paying, I think it's $100 a year for Swag Fan.
That's cheap.
And
so cheap.
So, and subsequently I'm working, so my girlfriend has a printing company, and so I was like, hey, could I mention you on the podcast? First of all, want his permission. And I'm building her a site now to do this sort of kind of like Printful, where she can accept all the orders and people can do on-demand stuff. So ideally in the next several months, it's going to take me some time to build it, but get her as and I'll start wearing some bucket shirts, I guess, to show off her work too. Got to be supportive. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, you're gonna set up a Swag Fan page, and
That's right.
I'll go and order some of those bucket T-shirts.
That's it. That's the goal.
Just go
So,
make
heard it
you
here
spend
first.
like $50 to send it to Gran Canaria.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're gonna
bro.
lose money. Not a good business model, but everybody knows about it, so the marketing is there. So.
That's cool.
That's cool. Swag
Yeah, it was
Fan,
fun.
that's a really good example of what I mean by niche, because it's just kind of one of those services that is hyper specific in what it does. But then to Simon's point, there is an untapped market and need that's of decent size that need that type of a thing. So perfect example.
There's so many good points that have come from that. Because I've followed the story of what's become Swag Fan since Justin started posting about it a few months ago. I think one is like how he's sort of adopted this junior, I'll say junior, maybe that's unfair to him because I don't actually know, what is his name? Ferdinand was it?
Yep.
But, kind of brought this person under his wing and like, let's build this thing in Laravel and all of that, which is one side to it, which I want to talk about. But also this is a problem that he's had at Transistor. So it's like his other business has this issue and he's kind of seen an opportunity and he's taken that opportunity to build this sideline thing. I don't know how he's going to manage that because like obviously Transistor is a significant business. It's employing him and a few other people at least. So like, I don't know where he sees that going ultimately, but it's a great way to start a service like this, like a product like that, right? Where you identify the problem, you have the problem, the solution you need is kind of widely applicable, and you have the resources to kind of build something out fairly rapidly. I mean, it sounds like they basically just did it over the summer. So you're talking a few months, which is no time at all, and get something reasonable out there and start charging people money for using it. And it's like, I guarantee that a whole bunch of people at $99 a year have just gone, yep, I'm going to have one of those. I haven't even got a Printful. I'll figure that out. I'm just going to get this now whilst it's $99. So it's a great way of kind of thinking about finding those things. And like, you don't have to do like a big business plan and figure out your marketing strategy. As long as you've got like a little bit of a thought about how those things are going to work, you've got a loose plan. If you've got the nugget of the business already there, then go build, do it, get it out. That's fine too. Thinking about the young developer, I'm assuming he's young as well. I mean, I got the impression that he was maybe like in his early 20s or something. Was he just
Yeah.
recently graduated?
Yep.
So I don't know anything about the story of how they came to know each other. How did Justin? Do you know anything about this, Shane? Because you've had a little bit to do with them.
Not really. I know. Yeah, I guess Ferdinand approached Justin looking for some sort of internship or something along those lines, and that's where it started. That's really all that I know.
Says
Yep.
I
he
mean,
met
that's a really good
Ferdinand at a local hack night while he was getting his comp sci degree. While Ferdinand,
was-
I'm guessing, was getting his comp sci degree.
It was at a local hack night. Ferdinand was getting his comp sci degree,
Oh,
and they just met up there and smart ass.
Sorry, did you guys literally
Yes.
just say that as I was looking this up?
I just had deja vu, but it
Wow.
wasn't exact. Yeah.
Oh
My
man, I
bad.
just had deja vu.
Stop. Yeah. Stephen
it out,
can't
man.
take this. He's ill, man. He's ill.
Cut it out, man. Steven's sick.
So,
You can't
like,
even.
I mean,
Too much
obviously,
snot
I
in
don't
my
know.
synapses. Sorry, go ahead. Simon.
Oh God. We're gonna cut that bit. No one wants to hear that. No. The thing that gets me with that is like obviously now I'm kind of putting my hiring hat on. Like how do you go from somebody who clearly has got like the chutzpah to go up to someone and say, "Hey, I want to work on a project with you," and just make sure that they're not a complete like nightmare to work with, you know? What?
Well,
How would
I
you go
think-
about that?
I don't know. I don't know what like money exchanged. I am sort of under the impression it was more an intern sort of. I could be totally wrong, but even if it was a paid gig for the dev, I picked up pretty quick on his personality and his eagerness and some of his skill level. Not so much in Laravel. He didn't know so much, but I think as part of CS, you're not going to learn PHP in Laravel anyway. But you understand the concepts of things and you understand how it's supposed to kind of work, right? And so now you're just adapting your language to, or your abstract definitions to a specific language. And I think you can do that, especially if you have enough support and community around you to ask questions to when you get stuck, etc. So I think the biggest part is personality, right? I think that's if it doesn't matter what you know, if you're a jerk, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'll find somebody else that's not a jerk. And after several discussions with Justin and Ferdinand, I could see that it would be a good fit for them to work for sure. I mean, they're both kind of the same vibe, a similar vibe at least. So
Yeah, that's good.
Is there like a part of this, Simon, that is making you think about Laradevs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could join it up to that, but it's like I think more generally, just the thinking of like a junior person, certainly junior in the technologies that you want them to work with. You know, if they were coming in as an intern, you know, sort of offering like, oh yeah, I'll work for free, or you know, there'll be something that doesn't directly impact the bottom line sort of immediately. Then, you know, how do you go about sort of making sure that that's not a drain on the team that you already have, or if you're on your own, you know, like your own resources? You know, how do you, I guess, vet that this person is going to be capable enough that with a little bit of assistance, which is undoubtedly going to be required, they're going to be able to make some progress, and it's not going to completely like sideline you and your business, as a distraction.
to me, this touches on something a little deeper actually. And it's actually probably the reason why, for me at least, why we're all here right now. I suck at delegation. And it's something that I need to get better at in life. And I realized over the last year, so we talked about it enough. the story of where, things that have been going on for me, I've realized that I can't do everything on my own, and I need to lean in and lean on other people, even if that means they don't know how to do things, right? And that's okay, because I don't know how to do everything, but I still need a job and I still need to work for somebody else. And I think people kind of just want to prove that they can be of use, and that people are going to try. And these are things that I just, 2, 3, 4 years ago, I would not have come to that conclusion. Like, no, if I want it done right, I'm going to do it myself. When it's like, no, if I want it done right, I need to find a bunch of people that want to try as hard as I do, or even one person that wants to try as hard as I do, and they'll figure it out. We figure it out. That's what we do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's letting go of that control that you have when you're kind of like, I'm doing things. I know that I can do this thing, or I know that I can figure it out. Or when you're saying, and give it to somebody else to do, you don't know that they can, but you have to trust that they will.
And that comes with conversation with them too. If they're like, you talk about a project, a scope of something, and they would say, I can do most of that. This part I'll have problems with. I know I'll have problems with this because I don't know it. And it's like, okay, well, I know where they're at with it. It's like, when you get to that part, let's talk about it again. We can approach it together, or we can find somebody else to help you, or whatever, that could just comes with conversation. And if they're of the right personality and eagerness to try, and they're not scared to ask questions, you get through these things. It's just like any relationship. You don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now in your marriage, right? But you know that you have the basic core understanding, and we'll figure it out, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Similar.
I feel like the challenge of delegation is a common difficulty for most, especially small business owners, and people that are really good at their craft have an even harder time giving up that control, because they know the way they can do it is probably leaps and bounds above what a new person would be able to do it for. But there's that old saying, if someone's hungry, you can hand them a fish, but if you teach them how to fish, then they'll never be hungry again. And what this makes me think of, that I've experienced in the past, is keeping in mind how important it is, as the person that doesn't want to delegate, right, that does have a difficulty with this, keeping in mind how much risk that imposes on your life or your business in case something were to happen to you, even transiently. But like, stuff like that can happen. And so I have seen time and time again, small business owners that don't want to give up this control, and they don't want to give up this delegation. Then they either want to go on a real vacation where they're going to be fairly disconnected from the team. That's like an elected situation like this. Or, sometimes maybe they're in the hospital for 3 days, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, you find out really quickly just how fragile the system was, because it was all being supported by this one individual that really struggled to, teach and diversify that responsibility. So it's an extremely difficult thing to do, but I do think it's a really important thing to constantly be working on. Shane, you've mentioned in the past that you've got a lot of like self-help books. Have you ever read Multipliers?
I do have a lot of books, and
well,
do the hokey
Multipliers
pokey
is a good one. It's kind of on this concept, but okay.
And I've got a lot of books that I haven't read, so it just makes me look like I'm a better person than I am, and that's okay.
I'm kind of curious.
It's all about the marketing.
I'm kind of curious on this topic to bounce this off of you two, because I have never worked at a large company. Like the largest company I've been a part of has been 20 people. And you guys do have experience working at much larger companies. So I'm kind of curious, what I just said about small business owners in particular having a difficult time delegating, did you guys see that at larger corporate cultures with middle management or anything like that? Or
Yeah.
is that environment more conducive to good delegation because it's not them that took this thing from zero to hero? And I don't know, there's just like an innate difference and feeling of like, this is just my job, not this is my baby, this is my business. Simon, you
That's
want to
a
go
really good
first?
question. Yeah. I think just to like underline the whole thing, it is different, right? Because it's not their baby. Even if they're, not, let's say middle management, but like upper management, and they might have shares or a stake in the business or something like that. And, maybe they were there from the beginning and it's grown huge now and there's like layers of this and they're just somewhere in there. It's still different because there's just a lot more stuff that's going on. Like you just have to get things done, and to a certain extent that means you have to delegate. Like there's no way that the CEO of a 1,000-person large corporation can be privy to every detail that's happening. Like they just have to let go. They just have to, even if they don't like delegation, like people will just be going, I'm doing this because you can't do it. Like you're not capable. You don't have capacity anymore. So that happens just by dint of the fact that there are more people there. Like people do want to do things. I think to a large extent they don't want to just sit there twiddling their thumbs. Hopefully, but it still does happen. I think it happens for a different reason though. I think it happens because people are not used to being managers. They're not used to the what's required to delegate stuff or how to delegate properly. Kind of there's an art to it, and you don't just get that when somebody says you've been promoted to being a manager. You you have to learn how to communicate effectively the exact things that people need in order to do the job. Like, and that's not necessarily spelling out how do I do the job, but it's giving them the information to maybe make the decisions, and then the space as well to kind of make decisions, and sometimes for those decisions that they make to be wrong, and that's okay. Like you're there to support them in making it work, not berating them when they made a poor decision. So yeah, I don't know. Does that really answer it? I don't know. Maybe some of that is the same, but it's just, yeah, it feels like a different context altogether for me.
I listen to I fall asleep listening to these a lot of cool different things, the YouTube videos, and I just let them play while I sleep, and I don't remember everything. And I've been doing this for like a year, and that's okay. Like obviously you don't the guy that fell asleep listening to this, how to learn how to speak Spanish or something like that. But in the middle of the night, the record skipped, so he could just stutter in Spanish the next morning. Stephen Wright joke. Anyway, um, hola. So I was listening to one. It was like the Art of Delegation or something, and I don't remember much, just the first few minutes. But the guy was talking about how every every living organism, even down to the cellular level, delegates. It all delegates out every process out to another resource. And it's I look at things like that, what's the natural way, just find it in nature. What is the way that this should work? How are things supposed to work? And when you can see the brain tells, it's kind of like the master thing, but it delegates downward all the way down to we're digesting food right now. We're not thinking about it, right? We don't have to process that cerebrally. It's being handled. We can trust that. And sometimes it doesn't work, right? Sometimes there's issues or whatever, right? Maybe a gorier, more, right? That's not my fault. It was the cook, right? So yeah, I would say looking at that, I need to get better at this. we have a saying, my son and I, everyone is, like work smart, not hard, right? But I say work smart and hard. So you were asking initially, like in larger corporations or wherever, the success of people that are delegating. I think the most successful people I've ever seen at these organizations, including some even like close to home. My uncle is very successful, but he's of that same mindset of he works very smart. He delegates. That's kind of what I kind of put that, like, even if you're using AI, you're still delegating. You're that's working smart. You're in control. You're the brain, and you're moving the pieces around. You're telling the stomach to do this. You're telling the blood to do this. You're telling all these things, and and then so the guy that just wants to make the decisions and live his life, he can just do those things. But also working hard. So, my uncle, great at delegation. And he's in his lifetime, he's been, in the same industry for like 50 years now, but he's been over, maybe not that long, 45 years. Many, many, many people. I think he had a staff of over 100 at one point, but he works his butt off. He will be the first one in and the last one out every day. And it's not so much a control. I guess it is kind of a control thing, but he's propped himself up over a number of other people to now he's controlling entire processes. And then, it's like, where can I delegate that out to somebody? Now, where does that give me? What can I do now with my time? Now it's creating more companies. And then now I have all these companies. Now I'm creating whatever it is. So, and I think, and I look at that and I'm like, man, I can't even like ask someone to help me get the mail or, something like that. Something so simple. And I can look at, in some ways I'm not, I wouldn't say stuck but I can see that I've definitely been doing some things that I've been doing the same over and over for a number of years that, if I had chosen to delegate years ago, I don't know where I'd be now. I could be many levels up. And so yeah, and like I said, the reason why we're kind of here now is because of this. We had this conversation either individually or all collectively a few months ago around Laracon, and it was like, yeah, I know definitely Simon and I talked about this, the delegation and like just trusting. I can't do it on my own. I need to find a group of people that I can build trust with and start working, collaborating with them. So,
yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, honestly, to like build. You can't. We talked about this before, but you can't just switch that on with somebody. Where, oh yeah, I trust you now. We can work together. I can delegate stuff to you. It just takes time. And one of my things, I'd love to talk about this some more, maybe on a future episode. But like, is there a way to like bring that down to like even a single question? Is there something you can just ask someone, maybe during an interview or that initial discussion that gives you that little clue, that little tick? Yep, maybe
the
this
answer is
person
yes. I can trust. The answer is definitely yes.
Okay, so the question is, what is the question?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Questions. I heard someone say once, questions are keys, and they all unlock something in somebody.
He's full of the sayings. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. So
it's so good.
It's from all the book titles.
Yeah.
I kind of glanced at the back of them.
Yeah.
Questions are keys. They unlock things inside of people, and sometimes it unlocks potential within them that they didn't even know. And just phrasing it as a question instead of a comment or a statement. My dad would always say something like, "Did you do X, Y, and Z?" And it's like, "Oh, I forgot," and that makes me think of all the A, B's, and C's that I didn't do to get to X, Y, and Z. Right? Whatever. So it's like, I've got to go do some more, whatever it is. So I think each person's different as far as like what question that would be for them. And Steven, I like that pose you did.
So I think this would be a great opportunity to get some feedback from our listeners. So, Simon, can you phrase exactly what you're trying to find? And then we can see if any listeners want to write us in something.
So I think it comes down to, like, if you've interviewed somebody, is there a question that you've asked that's really made you feel like, to what Shane's just said, it's a kind of unlocked their personality? Has it kind of made it really clear who this person is? Maybe it wasn't just one question, maybe it's a few, but can you pinpoint what that is? And is that something that's like worth trying to hone in on? Because I think part of that dating, the interview process is kind of like dating, right? You need to get to that conclusion. And from a business point of view, you want to get to that conclusion as quickly as possible. You want to be able to decide very quickly, is this the right person or not? Because I've got to get on with loads of other stuff. And if they're the right person, I need them to come in because they're going to help, because I'm going to delegate stuff to them, and they're going to help me grow whatever it is that I'm, doing. So I think it's really kind of, if there is something like this magic key question, then that's something that's worth like sharing and kind of zooming in on a little bit more. But I think that might be about all we've got time for, guys. I think we need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yes, I think that's a good place.
Right. Well, yeah, what can I say? It's been lovely chatting with you again.
Absolutely.
I hope you feel the same way.
Of course. Is this where we do the comment, like, and subscribe? Did I do that right?
Yeah, that's it.
We're
Shane's
so
hating
good at
this.
I know.
He's like, I've practiced for so many hours and hours to make this
it just
so
makes
seamless.
sense to me. It makes sense. Look, if you like this podcast, this episode, any part of this, chances are someone you know might as well. So share us out. Liking us on YouTube and anywhere else you've seen this definitely helps the algorithms to spread us around, and maybe we helped you and maybe we could help somebody else. So we invite you to do all of the YouTube things or the Twitter things or whatever they are, the blue sky things. You know what they are.
I feel like in our little group, Shane is our EN. So he's like good at the actual promotion of what we're trying to do. Simon and I are more like Caleb, where we just don't know how to do that.
That's
so it's good we have you.
Shocker
It's
to
good
me.
we have you.
Okay, I'm just here for entertainment.
I'm glad we can
and
delegate
marketing.
this to you.
Thank you.
That's auto delegation is what just happened there.
Right.
Thanks, Shane. We're gonna be here again next week, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
should be.
Come
We'll
back
talk
for
to you guys
some more.
then.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
Peace.